Hello everyone, SOS here. Good to see you all again. Uh, I just got back from my second viewing of the new 2018 Halloween, and I had planned on doing a review for this, as those of you who saw my ranking video uh, may know. I was serious about that, and while it's fresh in my mind somewhat, I figured I would do this review now. I hope everyone had a happy Halloween. Obviously, it's after Halloween, but this was the best time that I had to do this review, and here I am. So, those of you who have seen my videos and may have seen my review video, and if not, I did do a ranking review video of my placement of all the Halloween videos to where I believe they belong, from worst to best. And I said in there, I did that video in April, and if you haven't seen it, you may be saying, well, why April? I had planned on doing it that previous Halloween, but there was a lot of reasons why I couldn't. So by the time I had the opportunity to do it, it was about March, and I didn't want to wait until this past Halloween for numerous reasons. So I decided to do a halfway to Halloween video, April. And I mentioned in there that that way I can do the review separately and not have to worry about fitting it into the ranking video. But I will do that now. So I'm going to make some bullet points about the video, and then I'm going to get into it. First of all, I'm going to say that this will not be a spoiler-free review. There will be spoilers. If I will call out the spoilers before I give them, so if you'd like, you can skip ahead or just avoid the video altogether. That's fine, but I do want to go over some of the things that happen in the movie in quite some detail. So heed the warning. But if you don't care about spoilers, then this is a video for you. It's being kind of more of an analytical video. So first of all, I will say, if you're on the fence about it, go see it. It was really good. Uh, I guess sometimes you'd wait until the end of the review to say whether you thought it was good or bad or whatever, but I'm just going to be upfront and say it was excellent. I loved it. And if I were to do the ranking video right now, I would have it as my number 2. Easy. I'm biased towards Halloween 2. I love Halloween 2. It's my favorite, as you can see here. But I really do think that this new one is easily the best movie since the first one. So I'll get into that. I'm going to make some bullet points, and I'm going to try to go from beginning of the movie to the end of the movie, but there's some things I'm going to have to skip over and tackle. Does the movie have its faults? Yeah, sure. There are some things I could have done without. I guess I'll kind of cross those off the list first. Um, well, somewhat. I'll start getting into the movie. Hopefully, like I said, if you haven't seen my ranking list, I encourage you to watch it. So John Carpenter was apparently involved in the production of this film, and it shows. When I heard his name thrown out there, I says he's been distancing himself from this franchise pretty much since the third one, so it's got to be good, right? Well, to me it was. And I'll get into some reasons why. So first of all, we start off with the pretty much the title credits scene. We see these two podcasters who you see in the trailers. That's who they are. They're podcasters. The guy holding the mask of the trailer and his assistant, and they're fascinated with Michael Myers, and they go to visit him. And I will admit that the beginning kind of started off with a chuckle for me, because one of the little nitpicks I'll point out is that apparently the story they're going with in this one, because they're taking Halloween 2 out of canon, is that Michael Myers basically got shot 6 times, fell off the roof at the end of the first one, walked away, and then apparently Loomis confronted him, and he was captured and taken back back to Smith's Grove, where he is at the beginning of this movie 40 years later. And I have to say to myself, so you're telling me that he escaped from this minimum security sanitarium and then went on a killing spree, survived 6 gunshots, and then they just brought him right back there to minimum security? I don't, feel free to correct me if I missed anything for any of you fellow viewers, but that's what I got out of it. Why would you bring him back to Smith's Grove? But anyways, he's there. Sam Loomis has obviously passed away, and in the meantime, a new doctor has taken over, and he's apparently become obsessed with Michael Myers. So the podcasters basically attempt to interview Laurie Strode. I'm not going to spoil every little detail, but there are certain things I really want to get into. So this first scene I really want to analyze is the actual scene where Michael escapes. You don't really know how he escapes. Another little nitpick is that apparently they set up his transfer to another area for reasons I won't spoil for you. He gets transferred on October 30th, and someone makes a point in the movie of saying 40 years to the day. Like, really? They would really transfer him on that day? That's a mighty coincidence. But whatever, nitpicks. I'm not going to, harp on that too much. But the scene where he escapes is he's on a bus, and Laurie Strode has prepared for this day forever, and she sits outside the bus, the sanitarium as the bus leaves, because she knows he's being transferred, and she's ready with like a gun or a couple of guns, I think, and she is apparently ready to either follow him or whatever is assumed, but she breaks down. And I really like the human element, because the whole movie is predicated on the fact that Laurie has prepared 40 years for this. God only knows why, but she's had it in her heart that this day was going to come. But she breaks down and she fails to do it. And I think that's important, because no matter how hardened she is, and trust me, she is in the film, she's been like very militant about Michael, but still, when the moment comes, she breaks down, and a large part of the beginning of the movie is focused on the fact that she can't get over what happened to her, and she's still traumatized by it. And I think it's very important that despite the fact that she's trying to be a machine, she's still very much human. So when Michael escapes, and this is a spoiler, big spoiler if you want to avoid it, is how Michael escapes is the bus. She obviously leaves and goes home because she can't handle it. So the bus crashes, and they show the scene where basically all the mental patients escape, similar to Halloween 1, and they're just kind of roaming around. Now that's another point I forgot I wanted to start off with, is something that I really like about this movie is that they give subtle references to every film in the franchise. Every single one of them. There's something in the film that is referenced or given a nod to, sometimes without fully acknowledging it, but you can see it if you're a fanatic of the series like I am, and like I'm sure many of you are. You will see a lot of things that will remind you of other Halloween films, and little references and Easter eggs, little names, a name here or an item there. There are things you will notice if you pay a lot of attention that have kind of been spread out. So even though, according to canon, basically none of the last, 8, 9 movies ever actually happened, they're all still referenced. I'm not going to spoil every single one of them for you, but I really want to explain a few. We'll get to that. So the mental patients are wandering around, and there's a man who's driving down the street with his son in the car, and they're talking about hunting and stuff. Again, I'm not going to spoil the dialogue. It's not necessary anyways. But they pull over as the son points out that there's a man standing in front of the car, and you see all the mental patients wandering around. Now, I guess I kind of have to spoil the fact that the father, because I don't think it's even stupid at this point, it's just calculated. You know that there has to be some dumb people making dumb decisions in horror movies, right? It's a given at this point. So the dad tells the son to wait in the car, and he gets out and starts going, "Hey, are you guys all right?" Dumb. It's a bunch of mental patients, obviously. But anyways, he disappears, and the son gets out of the car with a gun, and he goes looking. And eventually he gets scared. I'm not going to explain why, but he gets back into his car, and Michael is there waiting for him. And again, I already warned you this was a major spoiler. Michael kills the kid. He apparently snaps his neck. Now, he wasn't a really young child. He was maybe 11 or 12 years old. But one thing that has somewhat bothered me through this entire franchise is that, especially in the really darker, really otherworldly sequels that I'm not too fond of, like Halloween 5 and 6 and 4. I like 4 overall, but the 3 of them are really not that good when it comes down to it. But there's always that almost otherworldly, like, and it's emphasized in almost every film. He's the embodiment of evil. Michael is the personification of evil. He's evil on 2 legs. It's not that I wanted to see a child die in the movie, but to me that may have been the most important thing to happen in the movie, because we do establish finally, after all this time, that Michael really is pure evil. He kills a child in this movie. And yeah, again, it wasn't like he was a 7 or 8-year-old. But it is a smaller child, and he kills him. And I think that's very important in finally establishing just how evil and psychopathic Michael Myers is. So when I saw that, I popped for it, because it was finally, he had so many opportunities to actually kill children in other movies and never did. So how are you going to tell me he's the personification of evil? So the next big scene, which I'm probably going to spend the most time discussing, is the scene where Michael first surfaces, kills again, and retrieves his famous coveralls and mask. The biggest problem I have with the film is actually the fact that the trailers, much like many movies nowadays, spoil everything for you. If the trailer had been subtle like it should have been, a lot of this stuff would have taken us more by surprise, but unfortunately you don't see a lot. Or excuse me, you see too much. So in this scene, and I do believe it is actually Nick Castle who you see, because the first scene where he's in the courtyard at the sanitarium, and in the scene I'm about to tell you about, his mask is not on yet. He does not have a mask, and you do see his glimpses of his face. You see mostly the side of his face, and nice little touch. You can see his left eye is messed up, so you can see where he got jammed in the eye with the hanger in the first movie. They followed consistency on that. But there is one part in this other scene. He had turned his head towards the aforementioned podcaster when he held out the mask, although he didn't respond, and that was pre-credit scene. And in this scene, there are other close-ups of his face, but you see the side, you see the back. There's one glimpse where it's just for a quick frame where you actually see the front of his face, and I'm sure when the Blu-ray comes out, everyone will be wanting to freeze frame that and see if they can make it out. But he basically, coincidentally, ends up at the same gas station that the podcasters end up at. And he goes in, and you can see, and it's nice little subtle tricks. You can, if you pay attention, because if you don't, you'd miss it, you see Michael walking in the background in his prison attire. And you can also at some point see his fist going up and down as if he's punching somebody. And as it turns out, he was. And this is one of my favorite things about how I said they reference all the movies. He's at the gas station, but there's a mechanic, like a garage there. And he beats up the mechanic and takes his coveralls. And it's very reminiscent of Halloween 4. And the male podcaster comes in and sees all of this and starts getting scared and heads out back. And in the back, the female podcaster goes into a 3-stall bathroom that's not the cleanest. And she's sitting in the toilet, and Michael comes walking in, which is a clear reference to H2O. And by the way, most of these references to even the bad movies, they kind of, and the ideas, because some ideas are stolen from them as well, admittedly. But they take all the good, from what I can see, and put it in the movie and leave out the bad. What little bad is in the movies and make fun of. It's like they're jabbing. Like there's actually a scene where there's 2 silly cops sitting in a cop car having a funny conversation, and it's reminiscent of Halloween 5. So anyways, he basically stalks her in the bathroom, He's got his coveralls, but he does not have his mask yet. And then the man comes in and stands in awe as he knows who's standing in front of him and utters the name Michael. And attempts to fight him off, but to no avail. Michael overpowers him, kills him, and then kills the other woman while she's in the stall. And the reason I'm spoiling this and want to talk about it is because there is something really special about that scene. The way Michael moved, his brooding, the actor that also, by the way, the actor that played him, granted, this was Nick Castle in this scene. I believe Nick Castle played the scenes where his mask was off, which is ironic because the one scene that we see Michael's mask off in the original film is the only scene that isn't Nick Castle. They used Tony Moran. But still, obviously Nick Castle did a great job, and also the other actor, I forget his name, who played Michael otherwise in the film, was also excellent. The way he moved was excellent. The brooding, his stature, just everything just worked. It was so good. In my opinion, hands down, next to Nick Castle and Dick Warlock, the best to play Michael Myers as the Shape. So the scene was incredibly uncomfortable to me, and the tension just built like a tightrope, as brief as the scene was, and between the aforementioned scene with the child and this scene, it really helped elevate Michael's status of brutality and mythicism. I can't even necessarily put it into words. It was handled so well that you really did, less than an hour into the movie, really get that feeling that this is the true evil that we've been waiting to see from Michael. Granted, it was there in the other movies in 4 and 5 and 6, but those movies had like an otherworldly B-movie quality, can't really take it seriously type of atmosphere, and I think most of you know what I'm talking about. It just didn't feel real. I'm a big fan of H2O, and that's because I felt that after all the silliness of 4, 5, and 6, that H2O tried to make the Halloween franchise grounded again and somewhat set in what you can see as reality, while suspending your disbelief, of course, because without suspending any disbelief, how can you believe this man got shot 6 times, fell off a roof, and is still alive? But besides that, it felt grounded, it felt somewhat realistic. And now they're doing things with Michael that I think should have been done all along, and it really just feels like a clean start for the franchise. So those are the main points I wanted to cover. You introduce new babysitters and things like that, and there are quite a lot of parallels to the first movie. It kind of moves at the same pace until the end, where there's a very, very elaborate scene where essentially Laurie lures Michael to her house, and her house is just basically a giant death trap set for Michael. And that's a big spoiler, but it was, I think after all of these films, it was just a really, really well done payoff to the whole dynamic of Laurie versus Michael. And that's what it was. It was Laurie versus Michael, and it was done very, very well. There's a lot of humor in the movie. I could have done with a little less of it, but it was well placed in certain spots and kind of helped relieve some of the tension. Is the movie in many ways predictable? Yes, but that's to be expected. So what they did was to make up for what lack of there was a twist, which I'm not going to spoil. I don't need to. There was one pretty big twist. Those of you who've seen it, you know what it is. I have mixed feelings on it, but I understand why they did it. And to be honest with you, I think I felt silly for not seeing it coming after it happened. But you know, I understand they wanted to give it a little extra edge, and that's fine with me. But the scenes were, cinematography was good. The music, I think they underutilized the new score a little bit because I thought it was remastered pretty well. I enjoyed it. The mask was fantastic. It really almost had that. If you've seen pictures of the hero mask and what it looks like now or in recent years and how decayed it looked, it almost does. It is almost strikingly similar in the way some of the features were warped on the mask, and it did look scary. And again, the humor was a little spread out, but that fan service was there to make up for what little unpredictability was there, but a lot of it was predictable, and there were a lot of little nods again to the original films, things that people in the theater popped for, and I popped for. Again, I'm not going to spoil them all, but pacing was pretty good. There were a few elaborate kills. Again, the little references, I can't help but spoil this one because I love it, is that there's actually someone who's referred to as Mr. Elrod in the movie, and I love that. Um, so yeah, a lot of little fan service, and I think that's a large part of what this movie needed to be. If you went into it expecting something completely groundbreaking like the first movie, well, you're probably not going to get that. We have seen 10 of these movies before, so you can only go so far. But I thought overall it was exactly what it needed to be. It took itself seriously enough. It had, like I said, twist. Filming was good. I thought the camera angles and shots were well done. The lighting was excellent. The cinematography was good. It was a solid film. And I think the last thing I really want to discuss is the ending. I am going to spoil the ending, basically, because, and a lot of you probably see it coming, so if you want to skip ahead, this is probably as far into the video as you need to go, because I don't think I'm going to go on very longer. But, as I said, Laurie has basically set a death trap. Her new house, which is out in the middle of nowhere, basically she raised her daughter in and taught her how to fight back in case this happened. There's a really great line in the movie involving the police officer about her saying, "I prayed every day that Michael would come back." And he says, "Why would you do that?" And she says, "So I could kill him." And the officer, played by Will Patton, who did a fantastic job, says, keeping in mind this is after Michael has escaped and killed already, he says, "Well, that was a pretty stupid thing to wish for." Well, some pretty good lines and whatnot. So in the ending, and I'm not going to spoil all the little nuances, but there were some, again, Michael played some mind games with Laurie, and I really like that. And in the end, she does trap him successfully after a long struggle, and I'm not going to give away how, but does manage to presumably dispatch of him. We never actually see him dead, so there could be a sequel. Presumably, you would think he's got to be dead, but again, I feel confident there will probably be a sequel. But she does entrap Michael, and Michael can see her and she can see him before his supposed demise. And Michael just stares down Laurie, and there is a close-up shot of Michael stiff and motionless with the mask on, staring straight at her, and it's a great shot, and it looks very, very haunting. And the feeling I got as a viewer was just reading Michael's mind and what he's saying, with his stoic stare at Laurie, just saying, "You may think you've won, but even if I die here, I've won." Because, and this is very evident through the film, as Laurie apparently, seemingly, has become an alcoholic and still has some terrors very similar to what she experienced in H2O, even though technically that movie, according to the storyline, didn't happen. She has a look on her face too when she's looking at him like this isn't over, even though apparently it is. But Michael is seemingly saying to her, even if my demise comes here now, I've already won, because I have haunted you for the last 40 years and traumatized you. And if you think you were traumatized before, the rest of your life is going to be a living hell thinking about this. And that's the feeling I got as a viewer, and I've talked to people who feel the same way. And it just really gives the movie's ending a really creepy vibe. So I don't think I need to spoil very, very much more. I covered the key points, but between the actor who played Michael and, of course, Nick Castle reprising the role in some capacity, and some of the very evil things that Michael did and the way he was so calculating, he was that somewhat stoic and slothful killer, but he was calculated in his kills. and the way he moved was fantastic. I mean, the guy has Nick Castle's walk down pat while obviously appearing younger. I don't know how old the actor is, but he did a great job. And overall, the total package was just. I think there are some things, and my girlfriend said this to me tonight. I do believe that there are some things they accomplished even better than in the first film. It's I'm not saying it's in any way as good as the first film. It's not, but there are some things that were just so effective. That again, that scene in the bathroom where he kills both of the podcasters. If you haven't seen the movie yet and you're listening to this, I can hope that you'll feel the same way as I do. That there's just something very, very special about that scene, and in for the second scene with Michael in a row, really really elevating him and really establishing here in this grounded real world, this is a man who is the personification of evil without all the silliness of Halloween 4, 5, and 6. I really do feel like this movie single-handedly rectified every mistake ever made in this franchise. I really do. It was very, very solid. Now you just have to try to put all the other films out of your mind, including Halloween 2. As much as I love it, this movie obviously erases it, and brings a little bit of the mystery back, too. And I really like that. You know, they even acknowledge in the movie, oh, didn't somebody say, and they did this in the trailer, didn't somebody say that Michael was her brother? Ah, somebody just made that up. But you know, the directing was very good. I didn't really notice anything very problematic about the filmmaking. The editing was pretty smooth. Like I said, the cinematography was pretty beautiful for a movie that takes place primarily at nighttime, just like Halloween 2 did, and I felt the same about Halloween 2. Um, so I think legitimacy has finally been restored not only to the Halloween franchise, but to the Michael Myers character, and that's so important. We all know and love Michael Myers, and we love the movies in the franchise, even though we know most of them suck. At least I think most of you know that. And I mean, I really don't think they could have done much better a job between all the subtle references. To be fair, you could look at it almost like the new Star Wars, like they kind of went with the same pace as they were remaking the first one. It's kind of like that, but not really. They did a lot of their own things, a lot of new ideas, and like I said, the final battle was very complex and creative and effective. But they did borrow things from other movies, and like I said, Easter eggs and little nuances and references. But, you know, as a fan, you appreciate things like that because, like I said, fan service is very important. So, the Boogeyman is back in full swing, and again, in that grounded, real-world setting that I really, really appreciate. I'm taking a minute to think if there's anything I forgot, but I don't think so. The most important things I believe I covered. Um, you know, like I said, there's some comedy issues in there, but it's nothing to really ruin the film. Just, you know, sometimes they try a little too hard. Uh, Especially one of the babysitting scenes with one of the kids is really funny, and at one point, someone is actually about to get killed, and yet they're trying to make you laugh, which to me isn't the best thing. But you know what? It's for a movie that did that, it's still pretty effective. There was nothing really blatantly egregious or silly about it, with the exception of maybe the twist. Um, but again, I understand why they did it. So overall, I gotta say, in my opinion, easily hands down the second best film in the franchise. Like I said, I love Halloween 2, but I think this is a more organized and well put together film, much more well thought out. I mean, John Carpenter admitted that it took him a six-pack of beer to get through Halloween 2, for Christ's sakes. But I don't think I have much more to say. If you're on the fence, go see it. If you've already seen it, then I hope you got something out of this and either agree with me or, you know, came to were entertained by the video. I don't think I need to add much more. I'm probably rambling at this point, but I was so excited and I really was happy, and I didn't really expect to be happy. I guess once I heard John Carpenter's name was attached to it, I figured, well, like I said, it's got to be kind of good, but I didn't expect it to be this good, quite honestly. If you can accept it for what it is, and what it is a vastly better movie than most of the movies in the franchise. Um, Especially with, I think people having a sour taste in their mouth from the Rob Zombie films. I personally like them, but I get why a lot of people don't like them. This is a fresh start for the franchise, and whether or not there's a sequel, uh, if there is a sequel, hopefully it doesn't derive into more nonsense. And if there's not another sequel, if this is where the Halloween franchise ends, and I have a hard time believing that, quite honestly, because something like this is just, as long as it keeps making money, are they really ever going to let it die? I don't think so. But if it were, I'd say this was just about a perfect note to end it on. So with that said, I think I'm going to pretty much wrap this up. Thank you for watching. If you have any other, if anyone wants to know my insight on anything else in the film, feel free to post questions, or maybe I could do another video, but I don't think I would need to. I don't want to spoil everything. I already spoiled some pretty big things for everybody. Um, so yeah, overall, uh, pretty damn good Halloween film, and it's nice to have another decent entry in the franchise rather than just saying, well, this one's decent compared to the rest of them. This was not just a good Halloween movie, it was a good movie, period. It does suffer from some of the norms of today's filmmaking, with a little bit of excessive humor and maybe a few too many long, concentrated shots on Michael. But that's to be expected. He is the star of the show, and at this point, we want to see Michael, so I don't really have much of a problem with that. So again, any opinions, questions, whatnot, feel free, and I'll look forward to conversing with anybody about it. I really enjoyed it, and again, I would say it would be real high up on my list, but I'm glad I did a separate video and waited so that I could spend some time talking about this. So yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, watch it, enjoy it, catch all those little Easter eggs and references, because again, every single Halloween film is referenced in some capacity in this movie, and that was something I really, really appreciated it. And there is tremendous fan service, and it's nice to have a new chapter in the Halloween franchise, and that it's a good one. So with all of that said, I think I've rambled long enough. Thank you for watching, and until next time.